this last week, a couple days listening to evidence, both the state and myself got up at opening and we talked about what we would see. We talked about what we would hear. And it was our expectation that you would hear the facts necessary to make a determination. But now we're at the close of it, and you're going to hear from both myself and Ms. Orr on an understanding or interpretation of what you experienced. This matter that we're here for, it's nothing short of tragedy. We have two young kids that lost their lives. We have another young man who is facing one of the most serious punishments in our criminal justice system. There are no winners in this situation. None. All of us were teenagers once. All of us made bad decisions. Snuck out, broke the rules, but it didn't have such a serious consequence. All of these individuals should follow the rules. Should have been home. And now we're here today to talk about the conduct that occurred. After Mr. Ross got off the witness stand, he spoke to you about what happened on September the 18th. He described to you the idea that he was fighting for his life, that he was put in harm's way, that he was staring at the end of a barrel of a gun, not knowing if he was going to see his next decade. The judge is going to give each of you a set of instructions. I'm going to talk about those instructions. The state is going to talk about those instructions. But these instructions are like your roadmap. These are the things that you are going to follow in order to make a determination on Mr. Ross's innocence or guilt. The charges that he has in front of him are first-degree murder. That is the unlawful, intentional killing of a human being with malice, premeditation, deliberation, and of course we will include with a deadly weapon. Now, malice is the unlawful taking of the life of another without, I repeat, without justification or excuse. Second-degree murder is the unlawful, intentional killing of a human being with malice, but without premeditation and deliberation. Now, premeditation, a person must form that intent to kill over some period of time. Not instantaneously, but more like a plan. And lastly, voluntary manslaughter, the intentional killing of a human being without malice and did not act in self-defense or they used excessive force. Now, the definition for deliberation, which goes back to second degree or first degree, that person acted while the defendant was in a cool state of mind. The evidence that we have heard from the experts to the officers to lay witnesses to Mr. Ross himself, it is clear that what happened on September 17th was not planned. It was not premeditated. There was no time to deliberate. This was supposed to be a Saturday getaway where these individuals were going to have sex. That's what the plan was. And everything went the wrong direction. Now, when we're making these decisions, when we're going through all of these elements, we have to talk about an important topic. And that important topic is reasonable doubt. It's on every movie, every TV, but it's one of those words that you can't necessarily grasp. Almost like the word love, if you were to define it. What does it mean? What does it look like? How does it fit into this justice system as we decide on each one of these elements? Now, the judge is going to give you an instruction, and that instruction is going to say a reasonable doubt is a doubt based on reason and common sense, arising out of some or all of the evidence that's been presented, or lack or sufficiency thereof. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that fully satisfies and convinces you of the defendant's guilt. Fully. Now, when I first started learning about this concept, I needed a visual, kind of comprehend and grasp what this really means in the gravity of it. And so, this illustration should help. I want you to imagine that this is a mouse. I put this mouse in this box with a piece of cheese. A couple seconds later, I open up this box. The mouse is here, but the cheese is gone. It is simple. The mouse ate the cheese. But if I put this mouse back in this box, and I introduce a cat, and when I close the box starts to shake, and I open the box back up, and the mouse is gone. The question is, what happened to the mouse? Your immediate response is going to be, it's obvious. The mouse ate the cheese, the cat ate the mouse. But if I told you, on the back of this box, there's a hole just small enough for the mouse to get out. That is reasonable doubt. And so when you are sitting and looking at the state's evidence and looking at the idea of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, and also self-defense, it is the state's job to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt. Every one of them. Just like this mouse could have, and would have, and should have gotten out of that hole. That is what you're looking at. Self-defense. That has been talked about a lot in this case. It is an idea that exists in most people's minds. The idea that an individual who is in danger, in fear of their life, presented with few options but to defend themselves. Now, this case started out with a picture of two individuals laying in a secluded road. They were positioned in a way with multiple gunshot wounds. At first blush, there was no understanding, no expectation that self-defense was even an option. But as the evidence progressed, and we started looking at the fact that there was only one firearm, the expert from the state made that clear. All these shell casings had the same tool. But then we further got more information that that firearm was a 9mm, and that same day or shortly thereafter, a 9mm gun belonging to one of the victim's fathers was missing. It was not a coincidence that gun was missing. That firearm was brought to the scene by Devin Clark. Even before Mr. Ross from the investigator when he got on the scene. He believed that Devin Clark's father's gun was used in the commission of this act. So one question may be, why, if these kids were just going to have sex, would Devin bring his father's gun? But then more importantly, why would Issiah Ross, who knows Devin to an extent but doesn't know lyric, have any issue with either one of them? But Mr. Clark, according to Mr. Ross's testimony, had some heated conversation lyric with. So much so that he took this gun that he brought and shot him. And then he took that same gun and turned it on Mr. Ross. So then the question is, if an individual who has already shot someone turns a gun on you and points it in your face and threatens to do the same thing to you, does that meet that element? Meet that point of self-defense? I submit when you get your instructions from the judge and you put all these facts together, it will be clear. Now, Mr. Ross, on September the 17th, 2022, was a 17-year-old high schooler at Eastern Alamance High School. As we just talked about, he had a gun pointed at him. He was unarmed. In this altercation, and this was discussed by the medical examiner, Mr. Clark had an abrasion on his lip as well as on his ribs. He busted Devin's lip during the struggle. Devin had multiple gunshot wounds, but he had one in the front by the chest. He had another in the front on his foot. And then he had 4 others that came around the back. When Issiah was on the witness stand testifying, after he struggled and got the gun, he fired. Bang, 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 bang. Witness James Rogers, whose house is right across the street, described the shooting. He said first he was awoken. And he didn't know what it was, but he had heard something, a bang, fireworks, the like. Started to go back to sleep, but then he heard a succession of 5 shots. Bang, 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 one after the other. This was not a stop and wait situation. This was an immediate reaction to an immediate threat. Mr. Ross testified. He said, I was scared, I was shocked, I didn't know what to do. He was in fear of his life. I asked Mr. Ross, what about Devin? What was his stature? What was his size compared to you? He mentioned he was about 6'1", 6'2", 200 plus pounds. Mr. Ross, he's not even breaking 150. So we have a bigger, stronger individual with a gun who's just shot and killed someone, pointing a gun at him. And then the next question is motive. Motive is going to be one of those rules that the judge is going to bring to your attention. And we had talked about that a little bit at jury selection. And judge is going to say that the proof of motive for the crime is permissible, often valuable, but it's never essential for conviction. If you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that a defendant committed the crime, the presence or absence of motive is immaterial. It may be shown by facts surrounding the act if they support a reasonable inference. But when you all piecing together this story, trying to figure out, has the state satisfied your questions? Have they satisfied you beyond a reasonable doubt that Issiah Ross killed Devin Clark and killed their employees? This is going to keep coming back there's still no clear story of what happened. Now, here are a list of all the witnesses who testified. First, we had Joseph Kaiser and Jordan Wilson. Those were the two individuals on the four-wheeler who located the bodies on the 18th when they were going to check their cameras for the deer cameras in the woods. And they said that this was their first time, they'd never hunted this area before, and that before they even got there, first it was Joseph, he saw the bodies and he made like a shriek, and then Jordan saw it, and as soon as he saw it, they hightailed out of there. We have Elizabeth Kennedy, that is their mother. Dexter Clark, that's Devin's father. They testified about the last moments when they saw their children and their responses to what happened once they got this information. And then our first officer to testify was Officer Suzanne. Now, Officer Suzanne was one of the ones to first get on scene, and I think you remember that he was the witness who at first said, "Oh, I think I might have driven on the scene," and then they put a body cam up, and that body camera footage showed that he hadn't actually driven on the scene. He stopped just before he got to the rock roads. Investigator Baldwin, he is their evidence tech. He's the guy, when he got there, he put down all the placards, located the evidence, packaged it up, and he's the one, whenever evidence is found, they would turn it into him. James Rogers. James Rogers is the individual who lives right across the street. I just mentioned to you, he was the one who heard the shots. He was going to the beach the next day. He did tell his son about it, and I believe law enforcement contacted his son, and then he let law enforcement know that his dad had told him about these shots, which gives us the timing of these shots. Just before 2 and shortly after 2 a.m. on the 17th. Dr. Lauren Scott. She was the one who did the autopsy. And she was the one who did the exams of both Lyric and Devin, and showed you the wounds, explained to you the cause and manner of death. Walter Villa, another officer with Orange County Sheriff's Office. He mentioned that he was on scene on the 18th, but he was the one who got a call that there was a phone cord that may be at the scene, but when he got there, never found the phone cord, but found that last shell casing. Now, Jeff Bray, we'll come back to him. Dawn Hunter, she was the one who interviewed Mr. Sykes. She was on scene on the 18th, and she gave a little bit more description of what the bodies looked like and how they're positioned. But she was the one who called Christian Sykes and met with him in the Walmart parking lot. Now, Kyle Borland, another officer, he was the individual who went to the house and made sure that the car got towed back to the location. Antoine Bryant. Antoine Bryant is the ex-boyfriend / stepdad / caretaker for Issiah Ross. He got up on the witness stand and he talked about his relationship with Issiah, the fact that when Isaiah's mom first got angry with him, he took him in, let him stay in his house, fed him, even took him to the bus station, and all the while encouraged him, "Hey, Issiah, just whatever you do, make sure you finish. You know, act right, do right by your mom, apologize." He talked about how he noticed the damage in the front of the car. He picked Issiah up, he took him back to his house. That afternoon, they got back around 2:30, and Issiah just stayed at his house until it was time to go. Now, why is that important? Well, we'll go down a couple people. Christian Sykes got up on the witness stand. And when he first got on the witness stand, didn't remember much. He kind of understood, but said it was too long, too much time. And then the state played his interview, the interview he had with investigator Hunter. And he was talking about how he got a call, or he talked to him, I should say. He reached out to Issiah, and that they met up Saturday the 17th when he got off work and smoked. And one of the jury instructions is going to deal with credibility of witnesses. And that you all are supposed to bring your own common sense and normal understanding of daily life to determine the credibility of each witness. What are they telling me? Is it true? Is what they're saying believable? And what skills and what things to use to determine that? Well, one thing you look at is, are there some things that they're telling me that just don't match up? So one is, they did not get together on Saturday the 17th because time-wise, it doesn't match up. Mr. Bryant said that he took Mr. Ross to his house. Mr. Ross said that. Another fact is that when Mr. Sykes was on the witness stand, he said that this altercation, this shooting, took place in the car. You had a chance to see the evidence. You had a chance to see this white GMC Acadia. There were no shots in the car. There was a bullet hole. And according to the state's own expert, there was no blood in the car. Now there is a person. His name was Solomon. He was considered one of the wisest individuals to ever walk the earth. And story says that he had a visit with the Spirit or God. And he was asked, I'll give you anything you want. And he asked for wisdom. Shortly thereafter, he was presented with an issue where two women were arguing over a child. They were claiming that that child was theirs. Well, the backstory is that one of the women had a child and lost it. So she proceeded to take this other woman's child while she was sleeping. And so Solomon stopped, and he listened. Both of these women claim, this child is mine, this child is mine. And finally, Solomon said to one of his soldiers, give me your sword. I'm going to cut this baby in half, and you can each have it. And at that instant, the mother said, no, 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 stop, don't do that. You can give her the child. And at that moment, Solomon knew who the mother was. Because no mother would want to sacrifice it. And so when you use your wisdom, when you use your common sense to look at this evidence, think about what people said. Think about how they said it. Think about how things just don't add up. They don't match up. Now, we had different experts get up. Evie, Wynn, Wendell Ivory. Mr. Ivory, he had several reports by the crime lab. They were introduced into evidence. There were DNA swabs, and these DNA swabs were of different parts of the vehicle. He tested the underwear. He tested people's hair to look to see where were they present. Wendell Ivory, from his DNA evidence, made it pretty clear that Lyric and Devin had sex that day, which is what Mr. Ross testified to, which is what even those text messages at the very beginning through Snapchat you guys read verified. It was clear that happened. You could see in the back of the vehicle Lyric's DNA was on the back door handle. The back door handle that she came in through and she went out of right before that shot. When you are looking at these facts and comparing what the state's theory is to what you actually heard them testify, I believe you'll notice that what Mr. Ross tells you connects. The DNA that was found on the front of this GMC Acadia. Here and here. This would be the front right of the vehicle. Where did Mr. Ross say that Devin Clark chased her with? Down the front right of the vehicle. That's where her DNA is. When we looked at the crime scene photos, Devin Clark's DNA was found in little blood spots that were on the ground on the left side of the vehicle. Where did Mr. Ross say he had his altercation with Mr. Clark? It was on the left, or the driver's side of the vehicle. Not like what Mr. Sykes said. His claim was that this altercation took place in the car, that there was a shot that went off in between Devin's legs, and that afterwards Mr. Ross turned around and shot literally. That would imply there would be bullets or shots in the car, that there would be blood DNA in the car. That did not happen. But that got clarified when Mr. Ross got up on the witness stand. He did admit that he talked with Mr. Sykes. Now, what Mr. Sykes took from that story, I don't know if it was a bad case of telephone or if Mr. Sykes was embellishing. He was told by Mr. Ross, man, I almost lost my life last night. He even told him, I had to shoot him, talking about Devin. He told Mr. Sykes that Devin shot her, because at the time he didn't know her name. Now, what he took from it, I don't know, even to this day. Now, if we want to go further and talk about Mr. Ross's story, the state brought an expert from the FBI to talk about where everyone was that night. And we had their cell phones, and we triangulated every phone at every time. We had a big blow up of where the phones were at the beginning. It was marketed by the petrol station, Issiah's house, Devin's house, Lyric's house, and the crime scene. And it's clear where Devin's phone was when this incident first happened. How his phone moved after he got picked up and went to Lyric's house. It shows Issiah's movement from his house to Devin's house, to Lyric's house, to the crime scene, to the gas station, back to the crime scene, and home. And when we're talking about the testimony, when we're talking about the evidence, I believe that the state's evidence supports what Mr. Ross said. The messages between Lyric and Devin. The fact that she was giving them the location to meet up. The fact that she was giving them instructions on how she could sneak out and not be detected. All within the confines of what Mr. Ross said. Everything. The dialogue that Devin Clark had reaching out to this group chat. And his statements to this individual starts out with, "Hell you doing, fool? NS gang," or GNG. "Trying to get 8? We got the TN exclamation point. Laugh emoji, laugh emoji. "By who?" LMAO, that bitch, lyric. Then his response, "She said she'll eat us both." And the conversation goes on and on. And that is a description of how Devin was describing her before this altercation. And then after he was unable to acquire a ride from this individual, he then went to a group chat and he messaged this: "You on wheels? Who on wheels want free buns?" Basically, smiley face emoji. That is what put this plan in motion. That is what led to a crime scene on Buckhorn Road. The law enforcement arrived and found multiple shell casings and bodies on the ground. That is what led to the death of Larry Woods, Devin Clark. This was not planned. This was not intended. But you heard the story. This is what happened. These two kids started the night thinking they were going to go out and have sex. And it turned out to be a situation that none of us will ever forget. But the question is, who did what? Devin Clark killed Larry Woods. When the state was discussing the position of the bodies, one of the officers rolled Devin's body over, and underneath it was a crock. It was a Crocker shoe that belonged to Larry. Now, why is that important? Well, it shows the order of the day. In order for Devin to be placed there, on top of that shoe, it would have to show that Lyric's shoe had to end up there first. We talked a little bit about this, but I want to make sure you saw it. So this is kind of a timeline here. We had a Snapchat message. Issiah picks up Devin after the Snapchat message. Devin has a book bag. Lear gets in shortly thereafter. That is when Devin points him in the direction of Buckhorn Road. Issiah gets out the car. He asks, "Devin, can I get your vape while you guys do what you do?" And then there's the verbal altercation between Devin and Lear. They get out the car. Issiah hears a commotion, and then everything happens so fast. Devin runs around the car, takes out his gun, and shoots her. Boom, 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 boom. And Devin points his gun at Issiah. That is a key point. That is where Issiah, fear, adrenaline, fight or flight, takes this gun does the only thing he thinks is fine. He shoots Devin, continues firing until he lays down or stops moving because that was his threat. He's panicking, he doesn't know what to do, tries to get in his car, realizes he can't because the road was so narrow that he can't get around him. Picks up Devin, pulls him back, and he drives off. Can't even get home because his gas tank is on it before they ever even got. Now, when you all are deliberating and going through all these facts and scenarios, remember that you individually are to think about what you recall, what you remember, about how you interpret all this information. And if you are in that room and there are elements that are presented to you by the judge on this jury instruction, and your answer to that question is maybe, I think, probably, then your response on your verdict sheet should be not good. But if you go through and you listen to or think about all the facts, looking at your notes, hearing about the conversation of your colleagues, and you are sure about all of these ideas, all of these elements, yes, that is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But I believe that when you really stop and think about all the things that you heard, minus the emotion and the shock of what you guys have all experienced and you saw, there will be doubt. There will be some uncertainty. There will be questions that are left unanswered. The only things we know for sure are that 3 people went to Buckhorn Road that night. 1 person went. There was 1 gun, that's 1. And Devin Clark brought it. He used that gun to kill Derek Wood and to try and kill Issiah Ross. And the only way he could have made it out alive was by taking the gun from his pack. The only way. And I believe once you've gone through that analysis together, that you will find the verdict of not guilty of the murder